Are they now? Does it make any difference whether they're a California school and it's a California student, or a California kid that wants to go to a private school and he's going to go to Texas or Illinois or something? Do those things make any difference?
Well, it doesn't make a difference unless the school that you're going to apply to is an out-of-state public school.
Out-of-state public school.
Out-of-state public school means you're probably going to pay probably close to $30,000 for a school that costs about $18,000 because you're paying out-of-state tuition. Now, if it's a private institution out of state, it doesn't matter.
Got it. Because they have programs, and you said the endowments and the various scholarships and the grants that they would apply, and they're looking for the quality students from anywhere to come in.
I'll tell you, I talked to another college educator and planner on the East Coast recently, and because of our area where we live, the diversity, and there are a lot of good, well-rounded students in the Bay Area. Some colleges are giving up to $5,000 or $10,000 more per year just for a kid from Northern California.
Really?
That's correct.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, that's interesting.
Oh, very.
So that means there are possibilities and opportunities for you, but if you don't know that they exist, you can't take advantage of them.
That's correct. Very,
very cool. So let's, there was something that you had mentioned earlier, and I kind of wanted to go back to. We were talking about the competitiveness of being able to get into colleges right now. Now, I guess there's a lot of kids. Okay, that's one thing. But something that you were telling me earlier, Dan, was that there are an ever-increasing number of foreign students coming to the U.S. and applying to American colleges. Is that a fair statement?
We're still the greatest country in the world,
right.
The USA. And that is so true. And what that does is that limits the amount of spots available for the kids here in our country. And, you know, these kids are competitive too. Different colleges have their different criteria. But, you know, if you're going to apply at a private institution, I suggest there are different programs available out there, and I have one also that we have that will take you through the 12 steps of what you need to do to get into these private institutions. And this is a nationally known program, which I won't mention the name of it, but it actually starts you with your applications, and then it goes your brag sheet.
Your brag sheet?
Yeah, a brag sheet. A brag sheet are the things that you've done.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, I mean, you can go back to Boy Scouts, and I mean, you build up your list of what you've been doing. If you haven't been doing anything, not good. Really, that's when you say when should you really start planning. Well, if you can get your kid to start volunteering as young as possible, get that community activist or community feeling into him, and that counts on your brag sheet.
Wow.
Yeah, the brag sheet, the essays. I mean, your referral list. Your
when you say essay in terms of when you're
private institutions are going to they're going to do a couple things. They're going to want you to write an essay, and they can tell if the parents helped them or not. They do. They have people trained at this. So that is one thing. And as an example, I have a student that's not a 4.0 or 5. You can go up way to 5.0 now, but I had a student that is going to Stanford right now, and she's an average student, 3.5. Okay, and she blew them away, and she got admitted to Stanford. And the reason for it, they loved her essay.
They loved her essay.
Loved her essay. So it's not just about. I'm sure there were tons of other kids that had higher grade point averages, but they could tell that she's surrounded herself and been out in the world a little bit, and she just blew them away.
That's cool.
Oh.
I'm going to want you to continue to talk about some of these things because I think that's important for the people to know. But I wanted to let you know we have less than 5 minutes left in the show.
Okay.
So let's talk. So we've talked about some of these things that you need to do: the brag sheet, the essays, etc. What else do they need to be thinking about?
Interview.
Interview.
They will interview you. They want the private colleges, and they will interview you. So we prepare you for that also.
In other words, they want the student to go to the school and sit down there with somebody and do a face-to-face.
Face-to-face, or some will do it on the telephone. Some will do it on the telephone. So admissions is a whole different ball game.
Yeah, sounds like it.
Yeah, matter of fact, there are companies on the East Coast that charge anywhere between $30,000 and $40,000 per family, and they guarantee that you'll get into your first or second choice Ivy League school.
Ooh.
But guess what? That same program, they made available to the public on a web-based program that is, that I'm actually promoting. So it's fantastic. I've, it's very inexpensive, but it helps. So most family and kids don't have a clue when it comes to the things that we're talking about.
Well, the whole idea of interviews. I mean, you talk about, I've been in the business community for many, many years, and it's amazing how many people that I've had to interview, and they have they can't communicate well. They can't put a full sentence together. They don't look you in the eye. They stutter like crazy.
Exactly.
And those are the sort of things that I'm guessing from what you're saying is that it was important for a student to be thinking about today if he's planning on getting into a college 4, 5, or more years from now.
That's correct.
Okay, what else? We got a few minutes left.
One other thing, I mean, to save a little money to kind of help your kid into the career they're going to go into, have that kid figure out what the kid, if you can get the kid to figure out what he wants to do in life, that's one challenge. But if you have a kid that has an idea what they want to do, have them do their community service or go to companies that are in that field and volunteer for an internship or just volunteer to work at the company. Because what will happen a lot of times is that once you've worked at, you come home in the summertime, you're going to work for that company. Well, guess what happens when you graduate? Of course, you're probably going to apply at that company that you have experience with, and they know you. You think your odds of getting a job at that company are better than someone who doesn't? Oh,
sure.
For sure. That's a great tip.
And I would think that if you are volunteering in that type of arena too, that you have the chance of using that experience and a reference letter from the owner of that company that says this kid.
You got it. You're getting it a little bit now.
All right. All right.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Those are some of the things that we suggest that families do.
And I got to believe that most people don't even think about that sort of thing.
Oh, no. No, college is a business. Remember that. Okay. Colleges, let me tell you how it works. Colleges are looking for the best student for the least amount of money that they have to give up.
Okay.
Okay. And the key is to unlocking. We know that a ton of colleges have funds. The key is unlocking those funds, and some of the things we just were talking about are some of the keys it is to getting some of that funds. Because I've seen families that make over $200,000 get some financial aid.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, if your kid is there and everything, is done correctly, you have a good shot at getting some financial aid.
Well, that's very cool.
Yeah.
Well, this has been fascinating. I think we're getting down to the point where we're just about out of time.
Okay.
And I want to remind the folks that if you've got, whether it's a son or a daughter or a niece or a nephew or a grandson or granddaughter or whatever, that is going to need to be thinking about this, start thinking about it now. I mean, don't wait until they're just about ready to graduate from high school. And if you have any questions about this or want to reach Dan, send me a query at info@referencepointtv.com. We'll answer your questions. We'll pass the data on to Dan, and he and his staff will be able to try to answer any questions for you. Dan, we're at the point where we have to wrap up. So if you had like a 15-second statement that you wanted to communicate to people that is something that you really want them to know about, what would it be?
It would be to start planning for that kid's education as early as possible. Don't wait. The worst thing that you could do is wait till he's a senior in high school and then try to go through the process. The worst thing you could, at least start when he's a sophomore.
At least start when he's a sophomore or sooner.
Or sooner.
Okay, well, Dan, thank you very much for being a guest here on Reference Point. Ladies and gentlemen, appreciate your being out there as well, and I hope you found this to be as interesting and informative as I have. And thank you again for being out there. We'll see you next time on Reference Point.